don't know what to talk about. It's been pretty low-key. There might be there will be another short run of the Signum3.1 circuit board. I had been making modifications to it to turn it into Signum Dev and add some stuff to it, but there have been enough people interested in it to warrant another short run. So it'll be a rerun of the original, which I think it had one minor issue, kind of, for some use cases. I don't know. Nothing endgamey. It worked fine. So that'll be neat. I've been writing a bit more, and that's always interesting. Of course, any of my fiction just gets to a state where it's like 70% done, and then I become a perfectionist, and then I never post it. Which is actually kind of the opposite of what I'm doing with these videos. So maybe I should change that. Give myself like 10 minutes to finish it, put some polish on it, and then out it goes. Or just turn it into part 1. Most of the books I wind up getting and reading are books that are like chapter 1 is for free. Sample, free sample. Try before you buy. That wouldn't be bad, because then you can gauge interest. This is weird. The high is like 62 today. And we were in single digits like 5 days ago. But that's just the Midwest, and that's just Kentucky, I guess. That cold snap was only making the Delta even more impressive. There's a project that I'm getting myself connected to. I hope. It's a local project. It's about helping kids learn to code. Kids or, you know, anyone from any industry that is becoming less teched and more, less manual, more tech. Yeah. Okay. What? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Oh. All right. Yeah. That's note to self: get more wiper fluid. Very good. Future Troy. This is past Troy. I have to warn you about the present, I guess. You've probably already forgotten, but you need wiper fluid. Find me in the future. I like the classy anime. Right. Yes, so learning tech. There are when you start talking about teaching, when you start talking about anyone learning to code, I think it gets weird. I don't believe anyone can code. but I believe a vast number of people who would have not made the cut can make the cut now with some machine intervention, by using computers to help themselves, to facilitate themselves. I've talked about this before, by using computers to augment themselves. Augment. Become augmented. Be the cyborg. To augment our memory, to augment our coding experience, to augment any skills and talents that have to do with recalling something, pulling up reference data quickly, even just cheat sheets. I mean, I don't think that you should have to remember things that the computer can remember for you. The computer has perfect memory. You shouldn't try to beat that. I think that being able to facilitate, to extend your abilities by using computers for reference data to help you code, help you write stuff, help you remember stuff. So here's the deal. It's not... apparently the information on IQ is not very positive. Increasing your IQ is not really something that is doable. Apparently in the social deviation for like identical twins raised in separate households is around 10 points, I think, which is some, but it's better than nothing. Where it gets really weird, I think, is those brain games. Apparently, the brain games only teach you to play the brain game, and that's fine, so long as the brain game is very close to the original. With practice, I think you could do a lot and cover a lot. But the uncomfortable reality is that it is not... some people are just not teachable to some of these things. And the difficulty becomes creativity. And computers can still be very functional. The computers are very functional. You don't need to be creative about writing some code or some data flow. It helps, but if you start from a skeleton or a snippet that does something similar and you start combining them and tweaking them, then you can... I think you could do a lot. I think I want to teach people how to use the computer to extend themselves, to accomplish more for themselves. Not, and this is a distinction in this case, we are still in a capitalist society, and I'm more or less okay with that. It's gotten us pretty far, but as I've expressed previously, I believe we are super capitalist. We are super capitalism. We're post capitalism, and we're into hyper capitalism. I don't know what we are, but I don't like it. It's a commoditization of people. I have some other unpopular opinions about that too, which I will share right now. Yeah, nuts to your algorithm. If I don't know who convinced women that they would be empowered by not raising a family and having kids, and by giving up sex to everyone all the time with no consequences, and then after they did that, went back to them and said, oh, by the way, you should also go to college and take on tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt that you'll be required to repay because you can't bankrupt out of it. And then you'll need a high-paying job so that you can pay taxes for the men that are increasingly not working. Like, I don't know who that salesman was, but he did an amazing job because it was a dude. When you invite women into the workforce, and I prefer women bosses, really. I don't have a problem with it. I just don't. We shouldn't just pretend that doubling the workforce would do nothing to wages. Now we're taking women that have barely an understanding of what they're going to experience later in life and saying, you don't want to experience that later stuff. Just give your best years to school and to a corporation, and then you know, you can figure it all out later. It's like not an abusive husband, but like an indecisive husband or indecisive boyfriend. It's like, oh, we'll marry one day. She's like, yeah, well, let's stick with it. We'll get that marriage going one of these days. And then she's like 32, and he's like, yeah, it's not gonna happen. And then she leaves, and it's like I've like all my 20s and some of my 30s are gone to this guy, to this job, to this career that I don't want to be interested in anymore. Again, I don't know who sold this, really, but what a salesman. I think it's been terribly damaging. I think that if women were to walk out of the workforce and say, we're going to do our own thing, we're going to do what we used to do, well, first of all, there'd be a labor crisis, which we're supposedly handling with more immigration, but in America, it's like illegal immigration, and that's a big corporate wink and a nod. Like, oh, please don't let the illegals in, because we'll just take advantage of them, because they can't really speak English, and they're undocumented, so we can just go ahead and, you know, pay them whatever we feel like, and then kick them to the curb whenever we feel like, and, you know, have a nice day. It's a mess. The workforce is a mess. And then to look back and say, oh, well, there's no jobs for college educated or for high school educated men. I understand where Tucker Carlson comes from. I don't really agree with him, but he has a point. It's very strange. It's a very strange place for a society to be. And this next generation is like the ironic TikTokers, TikTok nihilists. It's really weird. But my original point was, you can't double the workforce and be like, oh, where did our wages go? Oh, companies only have to pay half as much to people. And not to mention, women are less assertive than men, so they wind up doing more work for less pay, and that's great for corporations. I mean, it's just weird. I don't understand it. Being taken advantage of by corporations in every aspect, and they make friends with the politicians and drive the social change. I don't know. It's super weird. And now we're like, oh, there's a job crisis, a demographic crisis. Well, we have to deal with it, not the corporations. Alright, I'm here, and that was unpopular enough. Alright.